Alrighty guys, this one's for all the Ghoti duelists out there. We had some requests on the profile to see some of the combos that I talked about in it. Mainly some combos ending in, some Ghoti plays, but also a Dragite, as well as either a draw or a Kragen, which I find quite popular in this current format. So as I said, the deck revolves around our white aura combo. From the profile you would have seen that white Sardine can be searched using the continuous spell, as well as some Ghoti cards can search it, just Moonlight and Gold Sark essentially acting as a Moonlight can also search our Sardine. But I'm going to show you a combo where we drawn, our continuous and one of these, or these two together. I will quickly mention as well that other copies of Sunfish are from our shark package in the deck. So this one uses up your normal summon. Not great if you start with that one. This one here also uses your normal summon if you use it early in the combo, or if we have it towards the end, and you've activated, say, our search spell, you can summon this, search a Drake Shark, and then make a free Kragen on the end of your end board. But for now, we'll assume we've got these two in hand, and the rest of our hand are just 3 unknown cards. So to start our combo off, we activate White Sunfish effect. For cost, that sends a White Sunfish to the graveyard, and the effect is special summoning itself. After you've done that, you now have the conditions required to activate Sunfish. So you Sunfish, target this, it's going to special summon both of them, and then on summon of this one, it's going to become a tuner. From there, we're going to synchro off into Iron Pos. Iron Pos has the effect to banish a fish from deck on summon, so we're going to banish Moonlight. Now, the Moonlight here is going to banish one of these cards. It doesn't matter which one, because in the combo that we're making, we're specifically making Dragite. We're not going to be able to make a Gamia using this card. And then afterwards, we're going to be searching a Snopios, which will banish the other one of these. So pick one, either one. I banish that. Summon Moonlight. As I said, Moonlight's going to add and banish, so he's going to add Snopios, banish Snopios, Snopios effect, banish Sardine, and then Snopios gets added to our hand. All right, so it's going to be used in the combo, but Snopios will be searched. Snopios will be searched for synchro plays later. From here, we're going to use these two cards to make a coral. And now that we've got our Sardine engraved, we can coral effect to revive the Sardine, and then Sardine effect to become a tuner. Now you'll notice that at this point, well over our 5 summons, almost every single white aura combo essentially plays really bad into Nib. Our Sardine water locks us, and there's not a lot of water extract options that can out a Nib or defend against a Nib. Not in this deck anyway, unless I want to shut it down and make a Toad right from the get-go. So this plays hard into Nib, but my advice is just play like Nib doesn't exist. If we're always greedy under Nib, then every game that they don't have Nib, we're going to do really well. And then when you see the Nib, hopefully these other 3 cards in your hand are going to pull some weight. As I said, sorry for the random mid combo, this one's going to become a tuner. We're then going to synchro summon into our Dragite, and then Arian Pos, when used as synchro material, can banish itself to get a search. It can choose what it's going to banish. Remember, the Moonlight's already been banished this turn, so we don't want to banish it right now because then it won't be able to come back. So I'm going to target Arian Pos, banish that, add an Abyss Shark. We'll use our effect of our Abyss Shark to special summon itself and then search. Search a lifeless Leaffish. You might have noticed, if you're fairly perceptive, that we haven't used our normal summon yet. So Leaffish is our normal summon for the combo. We will send a Shif to the graveyard. Now, it's important at this step, as soon as you send your Shif, increase the attack of a monster, banishing for cost. Any step that we do after this, we're not going to have a Shif in the graveyard anymore. From here, we got 2 options. We can either make a Bubble Reef out of those 4 cards, and what that's going to do is in standby phase, Bubble Reef is going to banish Moonlight from the graveyard, which is then going to banish, well, so this will banish Moonlight to get a draw 1, so we'll draw an extra card. Moonlight is going to banish anything from your graveyard, any fish, to special summon itself, and then get it a search and banish. So we'll search our Zep and then banish our Moonlight. If you have another fish in hand, you can banish the other fish, but we'll add Zep, banish Moonlight for the point of the 2-card combo. Now, if you run that back, and we don't want to do that, let's put our lady back here. So our field looks something like that before. We've got Zep still in the deck. We didn't do our draw 1. A combo I like at the moment is instead of ending on our Bubble Reef, we can use the 2 4s that we have on the field here for a Kragen. The benefit of a Kragen at the moment is that we are versing a little bit of Fiendsmith in our current meta, which relies on having a light Fiend on the board. Kragen is a continuous effect to make all monsters on the field water. So essentially, if you have a Kragen up and your opponent's trying to do Fiendsmith plays with the 1-card light Fiend combos, they're not going to be able to until they out this Kragen. During the standby phase, of course, on either of the choices that we make, whether it's Bubble Reef or Kragen, our Shif's coming back. So in this case, our end board is Kragen, so a non-targeting pop, Dragite, which is Spell Trap Negate. Really good in Ghoti particular because we like our board presence. We fall really hard to board breakers, especially in pure Ghoti. So establishing a Dragite as part of your combo is a good out to board breakers. And then we have our Shif. For after we use the Dragite, we can Shif and Dragite into Deep Beyond, and that's going to banish all cards on the field. We'll obviously lose our Kragen. Just remember that your materials are going to the graveyard. It will banish all cards on the field. These used as material go to the graveyard. And then in this situation, so this is our Kragen combo, we didn't search our Zep. The final piece of interaction is using Snowpios to banish Moonlight, Shif to summon itself. And then we've got Moonlight bringing itself back. Let's say it banishes a Abyss Shark. And then it gets our Search and Banish, which is our Zep. Search, Banish, revive the Zep, and then you can use your Zep to go into either a White Aura Whale or an Azcan. A word of advice, if you want to bring out a whale, use Snowpios' effect on itself to banish instead of leaving the field normally, that you'll be able to bring it back to hand. If you're making an Azcan's going to banish itself and an opponent's card on the field, and then you can use Azcan's revive effect to banish Snowpios from the grave, and then Snowpios can add itself back to hand that way. There's a better way of doing that play. Alright, so that's the basic combo, basic White Aura combo. As I said, you get to establish a Dragite, choose a Bubble Reef for the draw 1 if you, say, have a lot of non-engine, or Kragen, especially if you know that your opponent is on a something like Tempai or Fiendsmith that loses to the Water Floodgate. Alright, Dillis, let's have a look at some of the ways that we can use the new fish support, the form of Toxic Boxfish, to unscrew our hands. Let's say that we've drawn a level 2 non-tuner and a level 2 tuner in combination with each other. I'll show you the worst case first, and then a better scenario later. So let's say as our worst case, we draw a Paces and a white Sardine. So we can do it in any order. Let's say I normal our Paces, and then I'll use our Sardine effect, which is going to bin a Sardine in order to special summon itself. So from here we got a tuner and a non-tuner, so we're going to synchro summon into Toxic Boxfish, and then Boxfish effect on summon to banish the Paces from the grave. So during your opponent's standby phase, the Paces will come back, and then we have 2 pieces of interaction that we have to use in a specific order. You can do them at the same time if you do the combo slightly different, as in the combo during your opponent's plays, but essentially you're only getting these 2 things out of that hand. So the first one is going to be either an Azcan or a White Aura Whale, so we'll use Paces effect to synchro summon. We'll synchro summon Ariampos. I'm going to say that I don't want to play into Ash, so I'm going to use this to banish a Zep from the deck. If I was to banish Moonlight and try and search the deck, this is an ashable combo. So I'm just going to banish our Zep, summon the Zep, and then effect on summon is going to use these two to make either an Azcan or a White or a Whale. So this is for the spot removal, banishing, and then this one's for destruction of their attack position monsters. When you summon that, so you'll have him on the field, or if we use the Azcan spot, he'll banish a fish from graveyard to come back. And then we're going to use the when this is used as synchro material, we're going to use its effect to banish itself, because we don't have any other level 6s, to search Snopios. Snopios is going to line up our second point of interaction. It is essentially an aggregator. So we're going to be able to banish 2 fish from the graveyard. Let's do a Paces and a box fish as the correct options. And then we will summon a Snopios. You can chain it in whatever order is most desirable for you. Let's say that they have an Omni on the field. I'm going to go chain 1 Boxfish to negate whatever's on the field, chain 2 Snopios. If you want him to recur back to your hand, you target him to add to hand, also banish instead of leaving the field normally, and then he'll be able to recur back to your hand. Or if there's an opponent's card which is good, which wants to go to the graveyard, you can use your Snopios to target that. But for now, we're just focusing on the Boxfish effect. So as that chain resolves, we're going to get our Boxfish to negate a card on the field. Again, this happens slowly, so we are only able to do ignition effects or non-quick effects, but that is our second point of interaction there for that basic combo. All right. The better combination of cards when we're trying to do an unscrew our hand combo is a Shif and a Keaf. We can, of course, as the middle ground, have a Paces and a Keaf, but the combo is going to go very similar to last time, where you will banish the Paces to get the removal effect instead of banishing the Keaf, and he'll just sit in your grave. But with this hand, we're able to utilize both these Ghoti cards to get interaction on our opponent's turn. So in this situation, we'll normal summon a Shif. Because we have a fish on the field, we'll use Keaf to summon itself. We've got a tuner and a non-tuner, so we're going to synchro summon Toxic Blowfish, and then use its effect on summon to banish a Keaf from the graveyard. We can then use Shif to increase the attack of this by 500 for this turn only, but it banishes itself for cost. So during your opponent's standby phase, both of these cards are coming back. Now, Keaf is not live right now, so until we get a banished fish, you're not going to be able to use the Keaf effect. But we can use our Shif to quick effect synchro summon into our Ariampos, and as I said, let's not play into Ash. We'll banish a Zep from deck. I have lost my Zep here. We'll banish a Zep from deck, and then our Zep is going to special summon back, and then let's say I make a What or a Whale. I will use my Ariampos. When used, I will chain 1 this, chain 2 this to chain block the search. Banish, our chain will resolve backwards, so we'll destroy their attack position monsters. Then this will be banished, and we'll be able to search our Snopios. The Snopios will line up a Toxic Boxfish negate. As I said, a slow one, so you can use it, say, on a continuous or a field spell that is yet to use its follow-up effect. But our Keaf is now live. So we can choose whether we want to use our card negate or our Keaf in whatever order we like. So when your opponent special summons a monster, target this, target the monster they special summoned, and then swap these two and banish that opponent's monster. Or if you've already used your Toxic Boxfish, it often helps for the grind game. So that this is if we've summoned our Snopios. So our Shif would be banished as well. If we summoned our Snopios and negated negated an opponent's card with the Boxfish, sometimes it helps with the grind game to bring back a Boxfish for a future negate on subsequent turns. Alright, duelists. Next topic of discussion is what we do when we get Lancea'd. So it is a Lancea format because of Malice, so you are going to get Lancea'd a lot if you're playing in competitive tournaments at the moment. So for that reason, we have a shark package in our deck. It actually plays a little bit harder into Droll, which is not good, but into Lancea we can actually do some plays and end on an end board, as opposed to a more pure version of Ghoti, which will throw their hands in the air and throw it to the wind. So we have our shark packages. The Abyss Shark you saw earlier is used in our main combo, so let's put him to the side for now. I will say that firstly, and under the topic of Lancea, let's say that they Lancea straight off the bat. I might normal summon a Mermaid Shark. Mermaid Shark can search a level 3, 4, or 5, so it might search our Abyss Shark, and then Abyss Shark effect will search this. The reason that I've searched what may seem like a bad Droll combo is because if you start with Mermaid Shark who's level 1, there's nothing you can search that will solve the Droll issue for you. So you might as well play into it further and get extra bodies onto the field. So I will search an Abyss Shark. Abyss will search our Drake Shark, or if we've activated a spell card, then we can search our Surfacing Big Jaws, which will then search the Drake Shark, and you'll have essentially all these bodies on the field. We can make a coral with some of these, or if we're trying to board break, we can make an Abyss Keeper to banish my opponent's cards or whatnot. You guys will be able to figure it out the more you practice with the deck. And it is of course dependent on what else is in your hand, because this was a 1 card for the 4 bodies. So the main point of this is to use any combination of these level 4s and 5s, because Abyss Shark can be treated as a level 4 for a number monster to make our Kragen, and then this is our mighty Lancea end board, regrettably. It is not as bad as a normal Ghoti player getting Lancea'd or more pure deck, but it is still worse than what we'd get otherwise. Alright, let's say that we've gotten our full combo off. One of our remaining 3 cards in our hand is a Surfacing Big Jaws, and as part of our combo we used White Reincarnation to search us, either the Sunfish or the Sardine. Now because we've activated a spell card, Surfacing Big Jaws can special summon itself from the hand, but it will lock you into XCs, so this is definitely an end of combo move. And what we can do is that we can special summon it, use its effect to add Drake Shark, because it has to add specifically a fish shark monster, which will then special summon itself, and then slap a Kragen on top of whatever end board you achieve. So let's say that in the main combo we went down Bubble Reef for our extra draw instead of Kragen, then we get a free Kragen on the end of our board just by seeing this card. Alright, let's discuss some of the fundamental Ghoti plays, the combos that have been around well before the White Aura stuff, just in case you see a handful of Ghoti or honorary Ghoti cards. So let's say our starting hand is Paces and Abyss Shark at the moment. We're going to normal summon our Paces. Because we control only water monsters, we can activate Abyss Shark to special summon and then add a lifeless Leaffish to our hand. We use our Paces to banish itself and normal summon our lifeless Leaffish, which will then use its effect to send Shif to the graveyard, and then Shif can banish itself to increase the attack of lifeless Leaffish by 500 until the end of the turn. I apologize, this should be in defense position to always play around Lightning Storm. During the standby phase, Paces and Shif are going to come back, and we have quick effect synchro summons during our opponent's turn. Now the first one is going to be used up in order to search Ariampos and Zep for later synchro summons. Well, we will search Snopios, and then further on during a second synchro summon we'll search Zep. So we'll use these two, Shif or Paces, it doesn't matter, to make our Ariampos. And then Ariampos effect to banish a fish from deck will banish a Moonlight. Moonlight's going to banish the tuner that you used, because we always want to get these guys banished again as soon as possible for recursion to summon the Moonlight. Moonlight gets a search and banish afterwards. So I'm going to search Snopios and then banish Abyss Shark or Moonlight. I usually do Abyss Shark first, because if we're doing a White or a Whale, combo, then we won't be automatically banishing this again. But if we're going to do an as can, this is good on the field to banish this and your opponent's monster, so you don't use up Azcan's revive effect. Just in case you get your Azcan destroyed, you can use your Snopios to revive it back with the Zep in order to do a Deep Beyond play. Now, from this point, as I said, we've got Shif to do Synchro 8 plays. So we have Azcan or White Aura Whale. I will use, say, these two to make our White Aura Whale. Now, your choice here is if your opponent has an effect on their field that negates, like, for example, our Blue Eyes opponents have effects that negate the effect of a card activated on the field, I will chain block this using the search, or if no such thing exists, I will use the search effect first and then use the destruction effect second. For our search, we're going to target Shif because we're only searching a Zep. Actually, I'm going to change that. We're going to Ariampos target itself. The reason is because if your opponent has a Called by the Grave and you do target the Shif, then it becomes a really powerful Called by for your opponent to banish the Shif, negate the Shif's effect to come back next turn, but also interrupt my search. So we're going to Ariampos target itself. It'll be banished, and then we'll be able to search our Zep from the deck. All right. From this point here, we have cards on the field, and we'll be able to do another Synchro Summon. If our Whale is still on the field, we'll use Snopios to banish Zep and Shif, and then Snopios summons. We'll use Snopios' effect to either target one of our opponent's cards that we definitely want to be removed from the field, or if there's an Azcan here instead of a White or a Whale, we might want to target the Azcan so that it automatically summons itself. The choice is up to yours, but a lot of the time if you're going for Deep Beyond, you don't really need to use this effect. The Zep is going to revive itself, and then on summon, it'll use 1 and 2 to summon a Deep Beyond, which is going to banish all cards on the field, including all these. If Snopios hasn't been banished this turn, then you can summon, then you can banish a fish from your grave to add it back to your hand. Or, as you noticed, we had our Azcan. We might want to banish Azcan, and then Azcan can banish in order to revive itself. Another Ghoti combo that is made even better by the addition of our Drake Shark is seeing a lifeless Leaffish along with an Abyss Shark. If I choose to normal lifeless Leaffish, which will then send a Shif to the graveyard, I can use my Abyss Shark to special summon itself and then add a Drake Shark to hand. Drake Shark will summon itself, and then using these two bodies, I'll need to search for my X deck card again. I can make a Barinthus Coral Anemone, which will revive my Shif, and then I can make my Synchro 6 Ariampos. If I'm able to establish an Ariampos through normal Ghoti combos first turn, we're usually playing pretty low to the ground at this point, I will choose Ariampos to banish quite possibly a Moonlight from deck. Moonlight can banish Shif to special summon itself, and then you can use Moonlight to either add a Paces or a Keaf. I tend to do Paces because what we can do is that when we've banished our Paces there, we're going to get those two coming back next turn. And I usually like synchroing into an Azcan if I can, using these two. I can use my Ariampos search to add a Snopios. My Azcan banish to banish Moonlight and an opponent's card. Moonlight can then banish, out of frame. Moonlight can banish Paces to revive itself, and then do a search and banish of my Zep. Alright, so we've added our two follow-up cards to hand. From here, I'll be able to use my Shif to make a Ghoti of the Deep Beyond. banishing all cards on the field. And then because Azcan hasn't been banished, and we have these two in hand, when our opponent tries to make further pushes, I can use Snopios to banish these two to summon itself. These two are going to come back, Azcan banishing the Shif. And then Zep is going to use its effect to make a second Deep Beyond, which at that point it will banish all cards on the field. Snopios will banish a fish from grave to add itself back to hand. And then during my turn, assuming our opponent isn't able to play through 2 Deep Beyonds and an Azcan, I will have 4 cards coming back, which is our 2 Deep Beyond and our 2 tuners. The Deep Beyonds will be from our graveyard, 2000 attack, and then it will get an extra 500 per monster of our opponents that we've banished, but also during our combo, because we have a Snopios in hand and whatever else we have drawn, we should be able to go from here and combo in such a way that we'll get at least 2, possibly 4 more banished, bringing these guys up to 4,000 for hopefully some straight through OTKs. But you should have at least this and a Synchro 8 or a Synchro 10 on your field for that, for the closing out of that game. Alright, Duelists, I appreciate the interest in the Ghoti deck profile and the request to see some of the combos. So I hope that we learned a little bit of something about Ghoti today. I'll be playing around with a more pure version of the deck in addition to the deck that I use to qualify, and I'll update you guys on what we're going to use for Oceanics, and see how far we can get. We are of course playing a rogue strategy, so we're going in with no expectations, but the Ghoti have been surprising in the way that they have overperformed this format, only in my own experience. So we'll see how far we can get, and hopefully we can get to day 2 as our goal. But until next time, Duelists, have fun with the Ghoti plays.